Welcome to cooking. Today we are making a holiday turkey casserole. It's a really great dish because you can use fresh turkey, leftover turkey. You can do this in January when you've been just done with turkey and then this kind of adds a different flavor to it. And it's a casserole, so it's all done in one dish. So it's a pretty great way to make a meal, and you're cooking a large amount of it, so then you can eat it for multiple days. So wash up your hands, wash up your celery if you haven't yet, and come on back. We're going to chat a little bit through the ingredients just because there's a few things that I want to point out as we go. So we're going to read through ingredients, read through directions, and then we'll get going. So the first one is breadcrumbs. So we have a few options of breadcrumbs here. Let me come in close. So this was a bag of crusts. And this shows you that you can do this on your own, no problem. If you have a bag of or a loaf of bread that goes a little bit stale, then just chop it up into slices like this. Leave it on some cookie trays on your counter for a day or two, or in your oven actually is great because then you don't have maybe bugs getting into them or flies. And let it dry. These are very dry. I'll show you. They're very crispy and crunchy. So the drier, the better. And then all I did was I put it in a blender and then blended it up. If you don't have a blender, then I would encourage you just to, when you are making these, just to cut them into smaller pieces, and then you don't have to change them at all. Cubes is great. So the recipe calls for whole wheat breadcrumbs. Couldn't find any. So if you're making this on your own, you can definitely make them with them. This was an interesting bag because it said that it was enriched white flour bread pieces, but as you can see, there's multiple types of bread in there. So kind of a neat mixture, just some leftovers, I'm sure. So cracked wheat, maybe some whole wheat, definitely lots of white flour. So that's a really great way to do your crumbs because you know you're just getting bread. And if you do it at home, then you can choose your kind of bread. So this was a breadcrumb package Marianne found at the grocery store. I don't know if you can see that. That there is all the ingredients that it comes in. And always check and see if it's a new product that you found. Look at the ingredients and see what's in there. Marianne also found Simply Better breadcrumbs, as the name, but the lovely ingredients on this one says enriched wheat flour, yeast, and salt. Wonderful. So if you don't want to make it on your own that way, then look for something that has very limited ingredients. So if you know that you're going to make this recipe or a stuffing recipe for Thanksgiving or Christmas or something, just every loaf of bread that you have, just take out 2 or 3 pieces and chop them up, dry them, throw them into a bag or a container in the freezer, and then eventually you'll have them all. After that, we just have some, of course, seasonings. You can't go through and do a turkey dish without some seasonings. Italian, actually poultry and sage. Lots of people don't enjoy sage. So if you're one of the ones, or you don't have it, because I tend to only use it once a year. So usually if I don't have it, or I don't want to buy it, or I couldn't find it, I'll just use Italian seasoning mix. And if you get breadcrumbs that are Italian, then you don't have to use as much. So your poultry seasoning, your sage, salt and pepper, of course. And then we've got our turkey. And whatever kind works. This is 1 pound, so 2 cups. So get out your leftover turkey that maybe is in the freezer. Hopefully you've diced it up and you've put it into Ziplocs that say, 1 cup, 4 cups, 2 cups. Pull it out and then you can throw it right into your meal. So easy, planning ahead saves the day. Or, great idea, Rebecca just made me a funny face back there of a chicken, because you could use chicken as well. They taste very, very similar. Spices are very similar between the two. So you could interchange both of them. We do find that the turkey is more expensive because it's not as more available as the chicken. So this is a pound, $8. So if you can get it on sale, meat freezes excellently. So get it on sale, buy 4 or 5, and then just make sure that you're using it. 6 months is totally fine. Up to a year is okay. There just might be some ice on the packaging, and that's okay. You just scrape it off because you're going to add seasonings and it's going to taste good anyways. So there's your ground turkey, or ground chicken, or leftover chicken or turkey, whatever you'd like. If you're going for the vegetarian option, you would just substitute with a bean. Chickpeas would work great because then they have a little bit more texture to them. You could use like a white kidney bean because it would be larger as well. And then really any vegetables you want. If you're a big stuffing person, then you know that celery and onions are the basis of stuffing, but some people use apple and cinnamon additions, or mushrooms is a big one as well. So whatever you're used to, add it in, no big deal. It's gonna taste great. And then the last one is cranberries. Now, they always tell you to open it upside down, which is really funny. So cranberries without it falling out or dripping. Or you can make them on your own, because in the ingredient list right here, cranberries is not the first ingredient, it is sugar. And so you can just get a bag of fresh cranberries or frozen cranberries, and then on the back of the bag it tells you how to make the cranberry sauce, and you can decrease the amount of sugar. You don't have to add that much, because the tartness of the cranberries with the stuffing is such a great combination. So we're going to use this today just because that was actually on sale and what we had, but feel free to make your own cranberry sauce. Fantastic. Let's get started. So we're going to actually start cooking the meat with the vegetables first. And then as it's cooking, we're going to mix the spices in with the breadcrumbs. And then when it's done cooking, we're going to add the breadcrumb mixture to the turkey. And we're going to mix that up with about half the cranberries. And then we're going to just dump it into our sprayed 9x13. And then we're going to use the rest of the cranberries and dollop them on top and have that lovely cranberry look. So let's add the turkey. Come on over. I've preheated my element. So hopefully, my favorite sound when you add something to a pan is that sizzle. I did add a little bit of oil in the bottom, kind of just out of habit. I thought I was going to add the vegetables first, but you don't really have to add oil to a meat, because the meat has enough fat in it, typically, so it doesn't stick. The other thing that I like to mention is if you're using a pan that has a coating like Teflon or this rock type of pans, make sure you're not using a metal spatula. A wooden is okay with meat, but plastic is better. The wood sometimes absorbs any bacteria that might be on the meat, but it's okay because we wash in hot soapy water after, so that is fine. But plastic works as well. So we're actually just going to add the vegetables to this because the pan's large enough and it's all going to cook together at once. So Marianne has chopped these up for us. So I believe it is 3 celery stalks and an onion, and Marianne did 2 onions because they were little. So if your celery stalks are limp and they're looking really sad, that is okay. They still have the flavor. If your celery stalks have the leaves on them, that's wonderful too, because the leaves, I don't know if you've eaten a celery leaf before, but they have so much delightful celery flavor that it adds actually quite a bit to soups and stews, and of course stuffing. I like to save my leaves. If I get a celery and it has a ton of leaves on it, I'll use some of them, and then I'll stick some of them in the freezer so that I can pull them out when I'm using soups or making soups or stews, and then I'll just add it to increase the flavor of my broth. So I put this onto a medium. We're gonna get this cooking down. We want, so the more you cook it here, the less you have to cook it in the oven. If you fully cook it here, which means your meat is going to turn fully white and get stiffer, and then your vegetables are just going to be soft and easily to break through with your spatula. So if you fully cook it here, all you're doing is warming it in the oven. So this, because it's direct heat, it's going to cook faster than an oven, which is just heat from around it. So this is actually a lot better method, or not better, sorry, it's a lot quicker method of cooking. So we're going to leave that to cook. Make sure you get everything off your spatula so it cooks everything all together. And we'll go back and start adding things to our breadcrumbs. Okay, we're back here to do step 2. We're going to add the seasoning to our blended breadcrumbs. And you can see on the top, most of the bottom ones are like thoroughly blended, but then I like texture in my breadcrumbs. So I left some that weren't. It is definitely difficult to stop that blender process before they're all pulverized, because the ones on the bottom are pulverized and the ones at the top are still large sticks. So you have to be creative in how to do that. So you have a tablespoon of sage, a teaspoon of poultry seasoning, and a little splash of salt and pepper. We'll give that a tiny stir. And then we're going to add in half of, let me read again. So in a bowl, we've got all of that stuff together. We've got our turkey and our vegetables cooking. So actually, we're going to bring that over here, and then we're going to add to the turkey mixture half of the cranberry sauce and then all the breadcrumbs. So let's do that. And we let this cook so it's fully cooked. We're going to add to it all of the breadcrumbs. Just gonna mix them all up. And then half of the cranberries. Maybe a little bit less than half. I think it's gonna be really great looking to see them on the top, so we'll leave the rest there. I think I'm gonna stir this with this one so it doesn't scratch it. And the smell of the spice is already pretty great. Now to me this is looking a little dry. I think we're gonna add, if you have chicken broth or turkey broth or beef broth, we don't, we just have water here, so let me stir it up a little bit more. Turkey as a meat is a lot lower in fat than any sort of red meat is going to be. Those cranberries are still clumpy. So to me, compared to a normal stuffing, that's looking a little dry. Add a little, because oil is going to help to bring out some of the flavor as well. That was about 2 tablespoons. So yeah, so because it cooks at 350 degrees, you can actually use olive oil in this. I just happened to grab grapeseed oil, but you can use olive oil, you can use grapeseed, you can use avocado, you could use melted butter. Ooh, that would taste really good. I think we're gonna add some water. Marianne's gonna grab some water for me. Those breadcrumbs, maybe I put more than the 3 cups of breadcrumbs in because they were quite pulverized. It's starting to come actually now. That oil helped out. So I think I added about a 1/4 cup of the liquid. There, that's getting more moist. We want it that crumbly oatmeal topping, you know, the topping for apple crisp. We want it to look like that. Let's add another 1/4 cup here. It smells really good. So after we get it all mixed, we're going to toss it into our sprayed 9x13 dish. Because when you cook it, it will definitely stick if it doesn't have that oil around the dish. So there we go. That looks great. If yours looked dry like mine, add a little combination of oil and water until you get to the consistency of those dried breadcrumbs. And if you're making this because you have leftover turkey, but you have some gravy, that would have been a really perfect thing to add in here. That would give it even more flavor. So if you stick your hand in, it's gonna clump together, and you can see it's doing that. It breaks apart easily, but as you stir it, there's nice big chunks in there. So we are going to take this and we're going to spoon it carefully, just so you don't lose any, all through the pan. And it doesn't really look like there's many cranberries in that. It seemed like a lot more breadcrumbs. So if you were making your own cranberry sauce and you had more than just this amount, which 348 mils, so about 1.5 cups. So if you had like 2 cups or 3 cups, I'd probably add it all. However, it will be good to get the taste of it. And now we're just going to sprinkle the rest of the cranberries right on top. And maybe that was, I think I saved a lot more than half for the topping, so maybe it needed the liquid of the cranberries to mix in together. The tartness will be quite tasty. Yep, my eyeball wasn't very good at measuring the half. I got a lot more on top, but that's all right. It makes it look pretty lovely. And with all of that green celery, it's very Christmassy looking. And there we go. So we're gonna cook it at 350 degrees in the oven for 35 minutes. You don't have to check it. You don't have to look at it. You just gotta set your timer. So remember when we open the oven, it's a 1, 2, 3 open, and then we stick our head in there to put the pan in. So we don't want to singe your eyebrows. And your oven rack is right in the middle of the oven, not too high. We're gonna stick it in there. And remember, we fully cooked all the vegetables, so they're not in the oven to cook. They're just in there to reheat. So I might check on that about 20 minutes in, and I'll keep you posted if it takes only the 20 minutes to fully heat or the 35. Right, our timer went. Let's check this casserole out. So there's not really a whole lot of liquid in there, so you're not gonna see the bubbles, but it's sizzling all over the place. I say we are done. So there you have it, holiday turkey casserole.